How y'all doing? I'm Matt with DG Customs, an affiliate of Chance's RC, and I built this trailer for Chance's RC collection.
So how'd you end up starting it out?
It started out on the drawing board, basically. Something was mentioned to me about, boy, it'd be nice to have a trailer behind this truck to haul the stuff around on. So after I took some measurements of what you wanted to set on it, I just started putting it together from scratch.
What was some of the first things we did?
After we took the measurements of the vehicles that you wanted to set on the deck, it was choosing material. So in this case, I sourced it from 3 or 4 different areas. The trailer tongue is the slide guides from a cabinet drawer. The frame of the trailer deck is aluminum C-channel, half-inch aluminum C-channel. The deck itself obviously is pine planks. The fenders are the bottom of a 1-gallon fruit cocktail bucket. And the headache rack and the steps are plastistrut shapes and components, all plastic. The ramps are wood, for now anyway. And then the expanded metal is all from an old security screen door that I had laying around the house. And the trailer stand is all plastic with a piece of all thread down inside of it because it actually works.
When you were putting this together, we were measuring out. What was one of the difficult things that we had to mess with?
We had to come up with a happy medium on the width more than the length, because you don't want it too wide to where it's going to be way out of whack and way out of scale. So what we came up with was, as long as this one fits between the rails on the bed, then we'll be okay, because the bomber is going to be wider anyway. And it still fits on the deck. It just overhangs a little bit, but it looks right, and it looks in scale. So, I mean, I'm really happy with it, and I know that Chance is really happy with it. Otherwise, I wouldn't be sitting here doing this interview. The working lights are actually an aftermarket set of motorcycle, road bike, aftermarket set of running lights.
You want to turn it over and unchain it?
Yeah. On the bottom, I used all thread for the axles. For the mounting blocks, for the pivot, I just used some of the original wood that I used for the bed. This still needs to be painted black, though I forgot to do that. All the wiring, this wire harness is from these aftermarket running lights. And instead of wiring them to a 12-volt car supply, you just wire them to 9-volt and a switch. And it's worked out really well that way.
This independent axle was pretty difficult, wasn't it?
It was difficult in the fact due to the fact that just getting everything parallel and keeping everything square so it tracks straight and it's not offset. Because everything wants to either push out from away from each other or pull in from each other. So that was kind of difficult to get that to square away. Also on these wheels, where this white plastic is, the webbing had broken out from the backs of these wheels on 2 of them due to just the way the manufacturing process was. So I had to make these gussets out of styrene, and I cut them to size and filed them and shaped them and super glued them in place to make up for the webbing that got lost when I had to drill out for the axles. So
Now these wheels are from where?
These wheels are sourced off of an old, it's an old New Bright. It was a Jeep, like a CJ7, old antiquated dinosaur of an RC vehicle that I had laying around in the parts box. The tire tread was, the tire treads work out, really well the way the tires are, because it's like a TA, like a radial TA all-terrain. And they look right.
Now lay it back down. We originally first started out with the Honcho stock wheels, and why didn't we go with that?
We started out with these Honchos. The problem is they're not foam filled, and there's no rigidity to them. As pliable as they are, when you went to make a turn, whether it was a sharp turn or a jackknifing the trailer, the sidewalls would want to fold over, and it never worked out right. It just gave us nothing but problems, and we couldn't take them back apart, or else we'd destroy the tires, because the way they're manufactured, they're all glued together. So we went with these, and that's not to say you couldn't use these, but before you assemble them or before the centers go in, at least fill them full of bubble wrap or something like that to give them some rigidity, because the sidewall is just too soft. It just won't handle it. Plus, once the weight's on the trailer, you start putting the weight of another RC on and extra pieces and parts, and the sidewalls aren't going to be able to take it, so they're going to look flat. Just kind of like these are. These are getting kind of flat just from the extra weight. So
now, show on the winch. You went ahead and fabricated your own
the trailer stand.
Trailer stand, yeah.
The trailer stand is just 1/2-inch square plastic tubing. Inside the tubing, I telescoped another piece of like the next size smaller square tubing, and I set a piece of all thread inside of that to run it up and down. And it works just like a real one. So it's still kind of experimental as far as that goes. So we'll see how it holds up over time. But I figured a trailer stand was better than just putting a skid plate up under the front of it for the tongue.
So overall, I'm happy with it. How are you feeling with it?
I'm happy with it, considering it's, number one, it's the first trailer that I've scratch built in 20 years, I guess. And number two, it looks to scale and it looks right. There's nothing, in my opinion, there's nothing gaudy about it. It just looks like an everyday, go down to your local RV store or trailer guy and tell them you want a car trailer. And there's always room for improvements. Everything's always up for improvement. You can go and add work lights on it later, or add a winch up front here later. You could go back and add a tire rack, or you can do whatever you want with this style of trailer. It makes it real universal that way. And given the fact that there's so much travel on the chassis, if you wanted to do away with the ramps altogether, then all you would have to do is put run a wedge block underneath your tow vehicle, so you get the nose of the trailer up, because this pivot will pivot all the way back to where that deck is on the ground. So in theory, you wouldn't even have to put the ramps on it, as long as you could get the ass end of the tow vehicle up on a wedge block or something like that.
Now, what do we use for the ball and
for the trailer ball, for the hitch? This is the steering linkage, the extra steering linkage from this truck kit. And this actually, the spacer is actually the cap from a
toothpaste.
Not toothpaste, no. But JB Weld tube. And then I reinforced the right behind it with this plastic strut I-beam, just to give it some rigidity, because I didn't like these little tabs. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.